The Yankees will never win another World Series, at least not as long as Hal Steinbrenner is around. I don't think they'll even be in a World Series in the foreseeable future. My name is Jack Allen Willard, a Yankee fan, have been since the early 90s. I came in late. My son being born in 1988 had a lot to do with it. But we began to go to Yankee games. We began to watch the Yankees and listen to them on the radio when we were out and about in the car. And I began to learn about the Yankees' legacy and the current Yankee team and what a spectacular group of people we had in the 90s and the 2000s. Very, very gifted people were on the New York Yankees, and the fans expected to win. They expected to not only make it to the World Series, but to win the World Series. And of course, they did so many times more than any other team in history. But it's a long time since 2009. It's many, many years, obviously, 13 years now. And they have not been able to do it again. This year, 2022, as I record this, they were humiliated in the second round of the playoffs by the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros would go on to the World Series and to win the World Series. They would face the Phillies, Philadelphia, and it was so clear that both teams deserved to be there. They absolutely deserved to be there. And it was so clear from watching the playoffs with the Astros and the Yankees that the Yankees were totally outmatched. The old adage, great pitching beats great hitting every single time. They made the Yankees look foolish. Flame-throwing pitching. It's gotten better and better every year. But I think back to the 2009 pitching staff, the last time they won the World Series, and it was phenomenal. Andy Pettitte, definitely a big game pitcher. CC Sabathia in his prime. A.J. Burnett, great pitcher unless he was freaking out on the mound, and that did happen from time to time. He had anxiety issues. Jabba Chamberlain could be really, really powerful. Phil Hughes, yeah. David Robertson, who was in the 2022 Astros. He looks so young. I can't believe it. It's him. It's looked like it would be his son. Looks like that. But he was always one of my favorites, David Robertson. Others, and of course, the best closer baseball has ever known, Mariano Rivera. Watching him, hearing the music as he would run out onto the field was an exciting experience, especially when you were there live. They would often cut to commercial and you wouldn't really see the full entrance of Mariano Rivera, but everybody would get up and applaud. And of course, when it came time for the Hall of Fame, he was unanimously voted in. And that was just wonderful, wonderful to see. But then after 2009, they started to struggle. And I remember in 2013, the great Derek Jeter was frustrated with the way things were going. And they asked him, the captain, about it. And they said, well, you guys have won so many World Series. And he said, well, not this team. Not this team. This is not the 2009 team. This is a different set of guys. So he made the point that that although he got to play in the 2009 series and of course taste World Series victory, that things had changed. Things had changed in the clubhouse. And although there were some great players, After 2013, some great pitchers and some great hitters and some great players that played the field and all the positions. The magic was not there when it was needed the most. And you just began to feel that without George Steinbrenner, who had a passion, a ferocious passion to win, that it wasn't going to happen because it is so true. You can't just have one pitcher, as in Garrett Cole, who's now kind of past his prime. He'll never be as good as he was, but he's still good. Seems to get frustrated and nervous sometimes, and sometimes will give away the game in the first inning. Other times he may allow one or two hits and then settles down, and he's phenomenally great. He's the Cole that you paid so much for. But if there's nobody to follow him that's anywhere near the talent of what's on the Houston Astros, the great Mets pitchers that we've seen, the great Dodgers pitchers, and of course the great Phillies pitchers. If there's no Verlander out there, now I believe that they did offer Brian Cashman, under the direction of Hal Steinbrenner, did offer Verlander for the 2022 season a $25 million 1-year contract, and he turned it down. I would have offered him a 2-year contract, and I would have offered him more than that. More than that. It's amazing that they get so much money. I'm not justifying this when you think what Yogi Berra, made back in the day. He had to actually sell suits. He had to work in a men's clothing store in the off season to pay the bills. It's just crazy. But I wonder, when fans are going to get sick of no changes being made. They want to see radical changes during the playoffs. They want to see a manager that's doing everything he can to win, even if it means bringing in your starting pitcher in the third game to pitch a couple of innings. I know what happens when he has to pitch, when he has to start. I get it, but if you are being humiliated on the field, you've got to do everything you can. Now, there was a big controversy, of course, this year when the closer, we thought, well, what happens when Mariano leaves? And he left in 2013, and now what? And then when Aroldis Chapman came around, fans began to hope because he could be incredible. He had some personal issues. He had some relationship issues that were dogging him. But when he would get on the mound and he was ready to go, and when things started working out, he would get a smile on his face. And when you saw him smiling on that mound, you knew he was going to be unhittable, and he usually was. So this year, Aaron Boone made the decision after he blew a number of saves to take him out of the position as the closer for the Yankees. He didn't like that. Could you imagine how Mariano would have felt if that happened to him? He felt he had proven himself and he was working through some things, and he just needed a little more time. And then it came time for the playoffs, and he asked Aaron Boone whether he would be in the lineup, whether he would get the pitch in the playoffs, and he couldn't give him an answer. Well, at that point, I can understand Chapman being very upset. How many times, Boone, have you sat there as the Yankees go down in flames in the playoffs and sat there and say, and sometimes the first sudden death wild card game, and it sucks to lose. We just got to do this and figure out that and all this stuff that they say, And this time he just said, after the Houston Astros swept them in the second round of the playoffs, he just said it was terrible. It was a terrible ending. He didn't really have much to say. Yeah, you wonder if things might have been a little different if Chapman had been given a chance, Do I really fault him for saying, well, screw this? You're not going to make a fool out of me? I can kind of understand that. Will he ever play again? I don't know. Maybe. I think people want to see him. But I think the fans are disgusted right now with Brian Cashman. They're disgusted with Aaron Boone, and they're particularly disgusted with Hal Steinbrenner, who says, "Oh well, Boone's a great manager. After all, we just signed him to a 3-year contract, and he's only done 1 year, so we don't want to eat that." So, he's a good manager. I don't see making a change there. And well, maybe the fans don't see buying a ticket and spending, what is it now, $65 at the parking garage across the street. The high price of the ticket, the high price of the of all the merchandise and the food and the drink. Maybe they don't feel like doing that. Maybe the stadium, because I think it seems like with Hal Steinbrenner, he's most concerned about making money. And they make money whether they win the World Series or they don't, because the Yankee fans are passionate, but they're also getting disgusted. So when you put out that kind of a performance and you get to keep your job, doesn't that kind of justify what Chapman felt? Hey, wait a minute. And now it looks like Aaron Judge will not be returning as a New York Yankee. They don't want to spend that much money, and I think that Aaron Judge wants to win a World Series, and he's beginning to realize the New York Yankees are not likely to be winning a World Series anytime soon.